village nestled between rolling hills and a once mighty river, the land grew tired. The soil was barren, the trees leafless, and the river just the whisper of its former self. But where despair took root, a seed of hope was planted by three friends, Leo, Maya, and Oliver. Leo was the heart, brave and optimistic. Maya was the mind, her logic as sharp as a finely cut gem. And Oliver, quiet and gentle, was the soul, with a unique connection to the creatures of the night. They had heard tales from the village elder, stories of the whispering gardens of Aurelia, a mythical place said to hold the seeds of life itself. These weren't just seeds for planting, they were seeds of pure vitality, capable of breathing life back into their dying home. The elder warned them the path was treacherous, a test not of strength alone, but of spirit. Undeterred, the trio decided they would be the ones to find it. Their journey wasn't for glory, but for survival. For their families, their neighbors, and the future of their home. With supplies packed and farewells said, they set off at dawn. The first obstacle on their map was the labyrinth of echoes, a winding canyon where sound was a trickster. Every footstep, every whisper bounced off the stone walls, creating a disorienting chorus of false pops and confusing sounds. Leo, ever the leader, wanted to charge ahead, relying on his courage to find the way. But after hours of walking in circles, his frustration grew. The echoes mocked their every move, turning his confident calls into a confusing jumble. They were lost, and the sun was beginning to dip below the canyon's rim. As dusk settled, a new sound joined the chaotic echoes, the soft, fluttering wings of bats emerging from their caves. While Leo saw them as just more noise, Oliver smiled. He closed his eyes and listened, not to the echoes, but to the bats themselves. He explained to his friends that bats navigate using sound, sending out clicks and listening for the echoes to map their surroundings. They could find the true path through the sonic maze. Maya, ever the strategist, saw the genius in this. She realized they needed a system. They couldn't just follow one bat. They needed to understand the pattern. Maya proposed a plan. Oliver would listen to the direction where the bat calls were clearest and return the fastest, indicating an open path, not a dead end. Maya would then mark their route with small, white pebbles, ensuring they wouldn't double back. Leo's role was to be their guardian, keeping a watchful eye for any real dangers hidden by the illusions of sound. He would be their anchor, his steady presence a shield against the disorienting environment. It was a perfect blend of their talents. Oliver's connection to nature, Maya's logical mind, and Leo's steadfast courage. Oliver focused, his breathing slow and steady, tuning into the bat's silent language. This way, he'd whisper, pointing towards a passage that seemed no different from the others. Maya would quickly lay a stone, her mind charting a mental map. Leo walked beside them, his hand resting on the hilt of a wooden staff, his eyes scanning the shadows. He trusted his friends completely. Together, they moved through the labyrinth not with speed, but with precision and unity. The confusing echoes faded into the background, replaced by the rhythm of their teamwork. Slowly but surely, the cacophony of the canyon gave way to a single, clear opening. They had done it! They had conquered the labyrinth of echoes, not by fighting the noise, but by listening to the silence within it. Their path now led them to a deep chasm, spanned by a structure that shimmered like moonlight on water, the bridge of trust. It was a narrow, floating path made of pure light, with no rails or supports. The old map said it would only hold firm for those who walked in perfect harmony. One person's doubt, one person's misstep, could cause the entire bridge to dissolve into nothing. Leo, confident as always, took the first step. The bridge held. He beckoned for the others to follow. Maya went next, her steps careful and measured. But when Oliver, The most cautious of the three hesitated for just a moment. The bridge flickered violently beneath their feet. A wave of fear washed over them, and the light wavered. They scrambled back to solid ground, hearts pounding. Maya quickly analyzed the situation. It's not about just walking across, she explained. The legend says perfect harmony. It means we have to move as one. Our steps, our thoughts, our intentions, everything must be synchronized. This was a challenge far greater than the labyrinth. It required them to trust each other so completely that they could move as a single being. Leo, realizing his forward nature could be a problem, looked at his friends. How do we do this? He asked, his usual confidence replaced by a genuine question. Oliver, who found his balance in nature, had an idea. Think of a flock of birds, he said softly. They fly together, turning and swooping as one. They don't talk, they just feel the movement of the bird next to them. They decided to link arms, not just for physical support, but as a way to feel each other's rhythm. Leo in the middle, the strong core, with Maya on his right and Oliver on his left. They took a deep breath together. 1, Maya counted, 2, 3, step. They moved their left feet in unison. The bridge solidified. 1, 2, 3, step. Their right feet followed. They didn't look down at the dizzying drop below. They looked at each other. They focused on the feeling of their linked arms, the shared rhythm of their breathing, the quiet count that guided their steps. It was a slow, meditative walk. Leo learned to temper his impulsiveness, matching the careful pace of his friends. Maya learned to let go of her need for absolute control and trust the flow. Oliver, supported by his friends on either side, found the courage to step forward without fear. With each synchronized step, the bridge beneath them shone brighter, more solid. They were no longer three individuals, but one unit, bound by trust and a shared purpose. When their feet finally touched the other side, they turned back to see the bridge shimmering, as if applauding their success. They had crossed the bridge of trust, and in doing so, had forged an even stronger bond between them. Finally, after days of travel, they arrived. Before them lay a valley bathed in an ethereal glow. The air hummed with a gentle energy, and the plants and flowers shimmered with every color imaginable. This was the Whispering Gardens of Aurelia. In the center of the garden stood a magnificent ancient tree, its branches swirling towards the sky. At its base was a stone pedestal, empty, waiting. According to the legend, this was where the seeds of life would appear, but only when the final riddle was solved. Carved into the stone was an inscription, "Your greatest strength is the key." They stood before the pedestal, contemplating the riddle. Leo immediately thought of his courage. He placed his hand on the stone, declaring his bravery as their greatest strength. Nothing happened. Maya, ever logical, believed their intelligence and strategy were their key. She explained how her planning got them through the labyrinth. Still, the pedestal remained empty. Oliver then spoke of his connection to nature, the gift that allowed them to understand the bats. He touched the stone, his heart full of respect for the natural world. Again, nothing. Despair began to creep in. They had come so far, overcome every obstacle, only to fail at the very end. They sat down, defeated. The vibrant garden seemed to mock their failure. As they sat in silence, Leo looked at his friends. He saw Maya, who had figured out the pattern in the echoes. He saw Oliver, who had shown them the way. He remembered the feeling of their arms linked on the bridge of trust, moving as one. And then he understood. Their greatest strength wasn't his courage, or Maya's intellect, or Oliver's gift. It was all of them together. It's not one thing, Leo said, his voice filled with sudden realization. It's us. It's always been us. Maya's eyes lit up. He's right. The labyrinth, Oliver's listening, my planning, your protection. We couldn't have done it alone. Oliver nodded, a smile spreading across his face. And the bridge, we only crossed it when we moved as one. Their greatest strength was their friendship, their unity. It was the combination of their unique talents, woven together by trust and a shared goal. Rising as one, they approached the pedestal again. This time, they didn't speak. They simply placed their hands on the stone together. Leo's hand, Maya's hand, and Oliver's hand, side by side. The moment their hands touched the stone, the pedestal began to glow with a warm, golden light. The light grew brighter and brighter, flowing up the trunk of the ancient tree, making its leaves shimmer like 1,000 emeralds. A gentle melody filled the air, a song of life and renewal. Then, from the very heart of the light on the pedestal, 3 small, glowing seeds materialized. They pulsed with a gentle warmth, each one a tiny star of pure life. They had done it! They had unlocked the secret of the Whispering Gardens. With the seeds of life carefully secured in a leather pouch, the journey home was filled with a newfound sense of purpose. The challenges on their return seemed smaller, their path clearer. They were no longer just 3 friends, but a team that had faced the impossible and won. When they finally saw the familiar silhouette of their village, their hearts swelled with hope. They were greeted not with a grand celebration, but with the tired, anxious faces of their families and neighbors. Without a word, Leo, Maya, and Oliver walked to the center of the village, to the dry, cracked earth where the community well once stood. Leo knelt and dug a small hole with his hands. Maya placed one of the seeds inside, her touch gentle and precise. Oliver then poured a little water from his canteen over it, a symbolic offering. They repeated this with the other 2 seeds, planting them in a triangle. For a moment, nothing happened. A few villagers began to whisper, their hope wavering. But the 3 friends stood firm, their belief unshaken. Then, a soft green light began to pulse from the ground where the seeds were buried. The light spread outwards in gentle waves, like ripples in a pond. Everywhere the light touched, the land transformed. The cracked earth softened and turned a rich, dark brown. Tiny green shoots pushed their way through the soil. The leafless trees around them began to sprout new buds, and the nearby riverbed started to trickle with fresh, clear water. A collective gasp swept through the crowd as they watched their home being reborn before their very eyes. The seeds of life were working their magic, and the friendship of 3 young heroes had saved them all. The village wasn't just restored, it was more vibrant than ever. And at its heart grew 3 strong saplings, a living monument to Leo, Maya, and Oliver, and a timeless reminder that the greatest strength of all is the bond we share with others. Thank you so much for watching this story today. Remember that teamwork and friendship can help us overcome even the biggest challenges. If you enjoyed this adventure, please hit that like button, subscribe for more stories, and share this video with a friend who is part of your team. See you next time!